All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. Now today we're going to be talking about the 2015 death of Lauren Agee, who passed away in a lake outside of Smithville, Tennessee, while attending a festival known as Wakefest. Lauren died on July 26, 2015. But this case has received a lot of attention because private investigator Sheila Wysocki has been covering this at length on her new podcast, Without Warning. It's also been featured on 2020 and Crime Watch Daily. Sheila Wysocki is also an investigator who is doing the death of Jonathan Cruz and their prime suspect, Brenda Lazaro. Now, I mentioned her podcast, but there are some things that are also coming up from other places, such as the Murfreesboro Voice. And I have an article here that I think we can go through to find some more information. Okay, if we look at the investigation, just going to read a little bit here. Agee's death was investigated by the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department, which ruled she fell to her death from the campsite and possibly drowned in the lake. Now, one of the big things about this is, what Sheila Wysocki is really trying to prove, as I understand, is that there is some foul play involved. Sheila has conducted a test where she just is insisting that Lauren's body could not have been found where it was. That at the very least, people have tampered with the scene to possibly avoid anyone detecting something. But if you're going to move the body from an accidental death, what reason would somebody want to do that? It's more like Sheila Wysocki is really trying to insist that there was some foul play that led to Lauren's particular death. According to a report by Dennis Ferrier on Fox 17, the DCSD's file contains few details and fewer pictures of the crime scene. In fact, the site was never treated like a crime scene. Never treated like a crime scene? Well, why on earth would somebody do that? The next part will give some light on that. An autopsy found Agee died from blunt force trauma and possibly dry drowning because there was no water found in her lungs. The medical examiner also found her blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. Okay, so, twice the legal limit. If, from just, exploring true crime cases, and I know that when people are disoriented, and they are around a water source, there is a huge risk of death. We see this all the time. I mean, like, they're saying the smiley face murder theory might just be people are, getting intoxicated around bodies of water and they are falling to their demise. When someone is intoxicated around a water source, the chance of dying is so much higher. That's the first thing that stands out to me, but we have some suspicious characters in this one, that being Chris Stout, Aaron Lilly, Hannah Palmer, the three people that Lauren was with on the night that she died. And these three people are really not doing themselves any favors when it comes to the image and the way that they present themselves to investigators and to Lauren's mom and just to the general public. So there's some very suspicious behavior going on with the people around them. But it's very important to note that Lauren's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. Let's keep reading. Sheriff's Department investigators believe that there was no foul play and that Agee fell from a cliff and landed on the rocks and rolled into the lake. Well, instantly we can say that that's highly unlikely because we have the Chris Yarchuk test where he rolls down. He constructed two different dummies that were of Lauren's weight, and he rolls them down almost every side of the cliff. And I want to say that they did it over 100 times. It might have even been 150 or something. Some large number like that, and never once did the dummy ever roll into the water. Never once did their test sample ever get to the water. So they're just sort of saying, no, no, no. And when you look at the photos of the campsite where Lauren was staying, it is highly unlikely that someone would be able to fall from any, significant area and land straight into the water unless, she tried to jump from a particular place. There is simply no evidence in this tragic case that will support Agee's death being considered a homicide or foul play, the Sheriff's Department said in a statement to NBC News. But not everyone was convinced. Well, I mean, this is... When you sort of just read it out like that, this sounds very benign, but it's just the suspicious behavior that has been associated of those three individuals that we've mentioned recently. That's what's really ignited the firestorm. That's what got Lauren's mom just, like, hey, what on earth happened to my daughter? What are you guys hiding? And let's discuss some of the theories now that the Murfreesboro Voice also provides. 2 detectives from White County who were off duty but at the scene said that they found Lauren's death suspicious, saying Aaron Lilly and Chris Stout had the wrong body language. And they talked about this on the Without Warning podcast with Sheila Wysocki, where they're just like, they seemed robotic, but not like they were nervous or in shock. They seemed robotic as like they didn't want to give away something. When we got them into the pontoon boat with us, Aaron told Chris, shut up. I will tell them the story. Don't say anything. Okay, so now we have 3 people, right? Aaron Lilly, Hannah Palmer, and Chris Stout. Aaron Lilly and Hannah Palmer are in a relationship. Chris Stout agreed to meet Lauren. Chris Stout didn't know Lauren very well. I believe this was their first encounter together out of anything. And it was their first outing together ever, as far as I understand. If I'm ever make any mistakes, I'm open to correction, but it's like, we do see, though, that Aaron Lilly is the ringleader in this, no matter what's going on. Even if you're just going to talk about a group of friends, Aaron Lilly's the ringleader, and people are just instantly noticing, he's just saying, shut up, I will tell them the story, don't say anything. And he's saying this right in front of investigators, and it's not like he's whispering it, just like whispering it to Chris Stout and people are overhearing him. He's saying it in a plain voice and like during, kind of like the exchange with the police officers, and he just doesn't care. And like, because we heard this on the podcast Without Warning, so it's like, I mean, that's just far out. That's rather extreme. Let's keep reading. Yarchuk, the security guard, who is also an officer, told ABC News he felt the same way about the bizarre behavior of Chris and Aaron. On the way out there, I saw the 2 boys in a canoe hanging onto a houseboat just waiting, directly looking at where the body was, Yarchuk said in an interview with 2020. When we came back, they started screaming, our friend is missing, our friend is missing. It seemed staged. I mean, is it staged? That's just one thing that we're really trying to get the answer to. But one of the reasons why we're discussing this stuff is, what on earth could have happened? When you say it out like this, it's really kind of pushing everything toward Aaron Lilly being the one who did something wrong. But what? I mean, like, one possibility that I did entertain was, there's a very famous theory that's been going around that they were cliff jumping and Lauren was cliff jumping and she hit her head. That's one of the things that have been told to the mainstream media. Well, I entertained the possibility, and I emphasize possibility, that Lauren might have been pushed and then that led to her downfall. I mean, because it's possible that Aaron Lilly pushed Lauren off the cliff as a joke. Did he push her by the edge of the cliff, not intending to kill her, and then that's what happened? Because my original feeling was that Chris Stout was the one who was holding all the secrets. But from what we hear, in the press, it's like Chris is actually more willing to talk, and Chris was much more open with the investigators. It's Aaron Lilly who is the one who is like, trying to cut off all the discussions. The only thing that's really telling me is one of 2 possibilities. Either Aaron Lilly is extremely controlling, and, even if Chris Stout did something wrong to Lauren, Aaron would want to control the situation, or Aaron Lilly did something to Lauren. And, it's like, there was a big discussion on the possibility of sexual abuse going on in this particular case. But it's like, Aaron Lilly and Hannah Palmer were in a relationship. And everybody knew that. And they've since been married. So it's like, what would be the sort of, motivation to, for any sort of, type of sexual assault to go on with Lauren in that particular instance? I mean, that's getting kind of complicated, and that's getting kind of far-fetched, and that's almost becoming too complex for its own good. But, if there is any sort of definitive evidence on that, I would admit it. But, that's just like going too far out there. Is that what really happened to Lauren, though, that Aaron Lilly started something where he might have done something that caused her to fall, and that she really injured herself, and then they moved the body? Because that's the biggest thing that Sheila Wysocki is trying to push. If you take away anything from anything that Sheila has ever put out to the media, her largest statement is she believes the body was moved. And that alone, I guess that's tampering with a scene and the improper disposal of a body, or just like, that's criminal. I mean, if somebody is... But you have to ask yourself, what would be the motivation for somebody to do that? Well, if they had already done something illegal. And just the descriptions of Aaron Lilly's deceptive behavior and controlling behavior, I'm really leaning toward the second of those possibilities I listed, that Aaron did something to Lauren that caused her to fall. And if this is true, what the Murfreesboro Voice is saying, that, Lauren's blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit, which I'm guessing is a 0.16, that, she probably would not have been, in a strong state of mind anyway. And she might not have had good balance. She might not have had, the ability to react properly to something. And if somebody did, even just push her gently, she might have, completely lost all ability to secure herself. But it's like, we just don't quite know. However, it's like, this is one that was just so hard to come up with even a possible theory, because it really just seemed like there was something going on with Chris Stout and Lauren, but it was Dylan that was the one who was trying to hide all the secrets. I called him Dylan again. Aaron. I always call him Dylan. I'm not sure. Dylan Lilly, I guess, sounds like a better name to me. Excuse me. But Aaron seems like the one who is hiding all the secrets. And it's a very suspicious situation. But this is just, kind of like my response to an article and my response to listening to the first segment of Sheila's podcast. And I'm guessing there'll be more of these as soon as I get deeper into the case. Well, until next time, that's all for me now. Talk to you soon.